Yes, guys, welcome back to the Natural Muscle Podcast. In today's episode, we are going to review the BNBF Northern show. For those of you watching on YouTube, which I'm pretty sure the majority of you are doing now, it's particular with the reviews coming up, so you can have a look at the standard of the athletes. And yeah, we have both our overall winners, Ethan Kavanagh and Louise Nadine. Phenomenal package both of these brought. Particular, we'll start off with Ethan, returning to stage after 3 years away, and what we like to call a kind of working in the shadows prep. And it's definitely paid off. Not many of us knew what Ethan was going to bring. Well, we didn't know, but we had a good idea, didn't we, Finn? From his 2021 season. He brought a great package then. In his novice years, and he's come back certainly improved and most polished on the day, and rightly so, taking the overall against a very, very good pool of athletes, and a heavily contested show. And Louise coming back to stage, and yeah, well polished. Very, very well fit in towards her class within figure, and coming back to take the overall and being the best female on the day, and rightly so. Phenomenal package from both of these athletes as well. Don't you agree, Finn?
Yeah, it was a really good overall in both actually. There was 3 or 4 people in each overall, in the male and the female one, that could have really, won it, and I don't think anyone would have been too upset about it. So the standard in the overalls were fantastic, and like you say, it's just good for two athletes to come back after so many years apart. Because Ethan, 2021 WNBF British novice champion, coming back, and Louise is I think 4-time national champion across multiple federations. I think she's won the MPA British a couple of times in figure, and I didn't realise. I thought it'd been 4 years, so that's what I put on the post. But I think she said it's been 5 years since she competed, so 2019. So it just shows you, time away spent from stage is not wasted, unless you just obviously chin it off and you start being a hybrid athlete or something like that. As you know, a lot of the kids do these days. So for us as bodybuilding, we love the training, we love the development side of things. Seeing people come back after this amount of time and improved, isn't that what it's all about? That's literally what life's about, isn't it? The whole point of our training is we improve over time, and we get better with time away from the stage. So it just gives you more motivation and understanding that, yeah, time away, you come back better, because they both come back looking the best ever. Ethan is noticeably bigger, but also leaner than his 2021 package, which obviously was very, very good. And Louise definitely has more muscle than the last time she competed. So it just shows you. So 2 very, very good champions, and we could be looking at potentially 2 national or pro athletes by the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes to show, yeah, time away from the stage, put the work in, come back, pack on some muscle, improve in the areas that you need to do so. And you can come be, as Finn's mentioned, you could be walking into the pro status, or another future British champion on the cards as well. So another shot through of Ethan on the day. And as mentioned, not just in the overall male category, also the overall for the female. We'll get into just after we seen the best wheels there. You wouldn't have really argued too much if the decision kind of went either way. And that's not to kind of take it away from Ethan, because definitely the most polished there, but it just kind of highlights the standard that was at the show. And one thing that was mentioned, is particular with the Northern qualifier, with it generally being based around Manchester, is we get quite a high amount of international athletes fly over, just because it's quite easy to get a flight over from either Germany or Austria. So don't be surprised if there's a hell of a lot of international athletes there, as we saw at this show as well. And as we know, the standard of them is very, very high. And then before we get into the overall female, Dante, his first show in the junior category, and rightly so, taking best wheels on the day. Very, very impressive sweep, very impressive package. I'm sure he's got a bright future ahead of this lad. And I'm sure he will come in sharper as he gets throughout the season. Definitely room there for him to improve. I know he's kind of mentioned on this beforehand, but yeah, phenomenal package. And yeah, would not be surprised if he's multiple British champ come the end of the season. And then our overall female, Louise, as we mentioned there. Some good winners throughout all the classes within the female category. Women's bodybuilding was very good. Women's figure. Yes, all in all, some very, very good classes across the board. And then starting where we finished the show on the day, both me and Finn in attendance as well. And it's fair to say that the heavyweight, this guy, Stefan, heaps of muscle, bags and bags of muscle. And it was clear to see like clear striations through, especially in the upper half across like the chest, delts, arms, similar to kind of like a Heidi Chupan with them chest striations. Very, very impressive. Very complete package, especially for a taller athlete to not look kind of like stringy, like looking full and complete from top to toe. Very impressive to see. So yeah, one of our international athletes coming over and taking the win in a very heavily muscle class as well, because we had as Jordan Long in this class as well, and to beat a man with his muscularity is yeah, you've definitely got to be bringing it for that. And then we had Marco in third place, and Ayman in fourth place. But yeah, very, very good class with heaps of muscle, probably the heaviest muscled class of the day, as you'd expect with the heavyweight class. And yeah, rightly so. I think the winner was just the sharpest and the most complete on the day. But I wouldn't be surprised if the likes of Jordan kind of moves up towards that top spot, coming into the British. And I'm sure he is kind of like aiming and expecting to do so.
Yeah, mate, this was a true heavyweight class. Like we were saying in the audience, like between the four of them, there was probably like best part of 400 kilo worth of like natty muscle on that stage, like because all four of them were legitimate heavyweights, not like they were 78 and just the bottom of the heavyweight cutoff kind of thing. Like these are all fucking big guys. And like you say, Stefan, one of the German champions of the day, with which there was 3 across the classes. And like Luke was saying, the Jan and a few of the other coaches who like the Northern, because they can get into Manchester Airport, set up base camp, they all go to Flex and Tone, and then they bring a few athletes over. And because they're flying over with athletes, you want them, you're not going to waste a journey by bringing over not particularly great bodybuilders. So that's why they tend to come over and they tend to really represent and smash it with top placings. And like we said, and we'll go throughout the show, like a lot of these athletes will, I am sure, take top spots in their respective German or Austrian national federations and potentially be pros by the end of this year. I mean, Stefan, one of the biggest natties I've ever seen in the flesh on stage, because like Lou said, he's tall. Like, so some heavyweights can be a bit shorter and just really, really dense. So it's very rare you get a super tall guy who's also as big as that. Like obviously we've got Theo. Last year we had Richard, who won the UK FBA overall at the British. There's only a couple of them around the heavyweights scene who are tall and fucking massive. And if Stefan had been a bit leaner at the upper part of his quad particularly, I think he'd have probably taken the overall just on sheer mass. But Ethan was sharper head to toe, and obviously has a nicer frame in terms of aesthetics. But Stefan is, upsettingly enough, he's only 24. So yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube and you can see this guy, he's just fresh out of juniors. So I do not know what they're feeding him in Germany. But yeah, crazy lineup. Because like you say, Jordan, much anticipated debut. We've seen him on Adam, his coach's profile, a lot, and everyone's been talking about him because he's fucking massive himself. Ridiculous physique for a first timer, and he, on the day, obviously, it's an early show for him. He's going to get sharper, but we also think that in prejudging is tan, and this will be a bit of a recurring theme for the British athletes. There's a few tanning issues, we think, with the dark eyes, whether it was a bad batch or what. And we're not slating either the athletes or the federation by saying that. We just noticed that there was a few of the British athletes whose tan earlier in the day wasn't as good, and the glaze wasn't that good. And I think with a full glaze, as you can see in these photos, like in night show, Jordan was much closer to Stefan, whereas it was quite clear in the prejudging the difference between the two. So that's an easy fix, isn't it? You know, better tan, better glaze, and you can start climbing those places. And to be there, third and fourth, like Marco in third, massive guy, huge guy. On a normal day, he's probably a comfortable heavyweight winner. Just he came up against two fucking freaks of nature. And Eamon in fourth, never seen him before on a British stage. Massive guy, huge amount of muscle. And he could be one of those dark horses who, you know, he carries on going and does, you know, finals later in the year and other federations, and he could be winning a few titles later in the year. Huge guy. Just again, this was a very good lineup. But you know, just to finish off with Stefan, like I did say on the post about him on the stories, like I have to say the biggest arms and pecs I think I've seen on any natty bodybuilder. In person, huge arms and pecs. Like his pecs were like it looked like they were like just the size of my torso, and enormous arms. So again, you know, this kid, I say kid, he's a kid in age, but he's not in physique. Like wow, what an athlete! But like you say, the whole top four was very high standard.
Very good there. And then we're moving over to our international athletes. A bit of a takeover within the middleweight class, which is fair to say. Our winner of that class, which was Dustin Gerrick, and yeah, very polished physique. Very sharp hair, particularly through the lower half. And something to, as you mentioned there as well, Finn, I think some of the international athletes coming over, I think there was pre-glazing themselves with the rollers on one another backstage. So what we've heard, and yeah, I mean, it's definitely paid off. Whatever tanning they've used and the actual glaze, they definitely look the most kind of polished when it comes to actually stage presentation. So yeah, maybe take a leaf out of these athletes when it comes to that, because rightly so, you could be kind of up there within the mix, but them just kind of taking the edge because their the glaze and the tan is bang on. And as we mentioned in the previous class, Jordan looked much closer when it came to finals rather than prejudging. He didn't really look there just because of some tanning issues and glaze issues. So if you can get on top of these two variables, which you can control on the day, it's definitely going to potentially put you ahead of those other athletes. But yeah, Dustin, the winner in a very good middleweight class here. Very high standard. You would argue and say it's kind of up there with either like British or like international level, like standard there for the day. Would say British with a pinch of salt. None of these athletes British obviously, but yeah, very good top three. And you wouldn't argue even if third place kind of Julian was coming home with first place on the day there. And I think the likes of Dino just missing out on this in the top three here. Just up against some very good athletes, all polished head to toe. Very well balanced class as well. Probably the most balanced class of the day. Just probably the Justin taking it on the edge in terms of the most polished, slightly heavier muscle than the other two guys. But in terms of overall structure, very similar structure really on all three of these athletes. Julian and Felix in second place. But yeah, Dustin clearly the most polished out of all three athletes there. But I think when it came to this class, it was quite close in between all of them when it was going like shot to shot really. None of them really had a standout shot. Not to say it wasn't impressive shots, but it was all just very well balanced, top to toe really. Kind of rounding off a very good middleweight class here as well, which is it tends to be the case with the middleweight at the Northern. Last year we had our overall winner coming from this class as well. And yeah, very, very good standard.
Yeah, like the first thing that struck me about Dustin was how big he looks. Like he looked like a heavyweight because like he was. I think what he won in this class mainly. I mean, all three very good athletes. Was his size. Like he didn't look like a middleweight. He looked like a heavyweight. He was clearly bigger, a lot bigger than the other two guys in the flesh, like on stage, and very imposing. And that's what won him. So I'd be interested to see what his weight was and like where the cutoff was because he looked like you'd expect a heavyweight to look, which just means he's got a shit ton of muscle. Like you say, Felix in second, lovely shape, a very, very good bodybuilder, like very, very aesthetic. And Julian in third, really, really good, probably a touch leaner. And like you say, mate, Dean, who was fourth, he's come a split decision away from winning a WMBF Pro card in this year, and he couldn't crack the top three today. On this day, and it just shows you the levels of this show. And it's one of those. I always look at a middleweight lineup with obviously a view of okay, would I be in that, and how I'd get on. And this is one of those top threes where I'm like, I could have this 4-year off season I'm doing and come back and not place, and then you think, shit, like the level to this is ridiculous. So yeah, there's no such thing as an easy qualifier, but if you're wanting to avoid like international caliber classes, of which this was another one, like this could easily be a Europeans level or a world's level, never mind a British, like don't do the Northern, because I think for years to come the BNBF Northern is going to attract Austrian and German competitors because of they don't get many opportunities to compete naturally in their respective countries because there's only open finals. We don't do qualifiers per se. We don't do regionals. So a lot of them like to do qualifier shows in this country as like, the whole warm up, data collection, all the things the cool kids say. So yeah, it seems to be the Northern. So next year, if people are planning on shows, maybe avoid the Northern if you want a bit of an easier time, because there's going to be some very, very good Germans next year. You can just bet your house on it. But then a lot of them don't do finals, as Luke was saying, because finals tends to land on the same weekend that like one of the big shows. I can't remember if it's the AMBF or the Evo Classic. It's one of them, and they'll all do that because obviously it's at their home country and a far, far bigger show in terms of prestige for them. So you tend to we smash all the top three placings, and then not many of them or none of them come to finals, which is a shame because they're clearly incredible athletes. So yeah, really, really good middleweights. And it's one of those where you just look at Dustin and I did think, how is he a middleweight? Like he's just so big. So yeah, these three again, if at the end of this calendar year we're looking at 3 new pros in respective natty feds, it wouldn't be surprising at all. And shout out to Dean. We had a good chat with him after the show. He's got several more shows to do across the world, actually, Mr. Worldwide. So we'll be looking forward to seeing how he gets on. Across a couple of different federations in different parts of the world, which is great. And we were discussing potentially having him on as a guest to discuss competing in different countries and the different setups and how things run. It's just a bit of an experience for you guys who might think, oh, I wonder what it's like to do all these different like international shows. Like, Dean's probably the best example of that, and we'll be looking forward to having him on when he's finished the season, when he's finished all his travelling, and discussing just that. So yeah, another great class. And Dustin, wasn't a million miles away in the overall. Again, I'm going to save this for many of the classes coming up, but he really wasn't. Very, very high level middleweight class.
Very good. Then we're moving through to our lightweight class. And our overall winner, as mentioned before, overall just the most the most polished, shape player, beautiful shape Ethan has got as well. And yeah, very, very aesthetic, and yeah, rightly so. Very, very hard, very conditioned, peaked with his fullness. Just nailed the best overall package on the day. And not to say this was did almost come as a surprise, but it was that lightweight class yet again was just that good of a standard with that much muscle in a lightweight class. Like all three of these athletes. I mean, even when we thought Ethan was returning to stage, we thought the last class we thought he'd fall in was a lightweights. We thought, yeah, middleweights or kind of like a heavyweight, which is fair to say. But yeah, all three of these athletes got a shit ton of muscle. And we wouldn't be like surprised if some kind of like flip-flopped away, but like looking back at it overall, like shot for shot, pose for pose, I think Ethan was just overall the best balance on the day against two very good athletes here. I mean, the lightweights overall was very good. We even had the likes of Chris Edge missing out on the in placing in the class. Yeah, very, very, very good. Like I say, and Chris Edge obviously coming second in the British beforehand. So to kind of miss out on a top three on here, I'm sure he'll be going again at the Scottish, I'd imagine. But yeah, phenomenal class, phenomenal standard across the board, and this is up there with like a European standard, top three for sure. Marius there in second place, heaps of muscle on such a short frame, and just looked absolutely bursting full of muscle. Particularly when it turned to the rear, it was almost kind of the closest thing to seeing like of a Dirk Emmerich when he turned round. And yeah, you don't want to make comparisons to Dirk often, but it was the closest thing I've seen to that in person anyway, for sure. And Philip as well, like yeah, heaps of muscle, particularly in the lower half, very good condition, nailed with the glaze as well. But yeah, if you're looking through on this class, like Ethan up there, just looks the most kind of, I'd say heavily muscled, most conditioned there overall, and yeah, beautiful shape there, tiny waist, wide shoulders, and yeah, rightly so, taking the win. And I think as you put him up there with the other athletes and the winners of the other classes, it's just fair to say that shape is carried him very, very well, especially with a kind of polished look and granite hard conditioning. Very, very good for Ethan.
Yeah, like in the post about Ethan, I said he's the perfect bodybuilder. If you were like, okay, all right, I'm building a frame of a bodybuilder in a lab, you'd build Ethan's frame. You just would. Like, not too tall, not too short, like beautiful X frame, perfectly balanced, like top to bottom, perfectly symmetrical left to right. Like he hasn't got an imbalance. He's when I say that, like and this is being disrespectful to him, he's not the biggest, but to be a perfect bodybuilder, you don't have to be the biggest size. It's about aesthetics and beauty, and again, someone like Ethan, that is exactly that, and that's what won him the class and what's won him the overall. Ultimately, like you cannot beat frame with good muscle and elite conditioning. You just can't. Like that is the nature of bodybuilding. You can be bigger, as Marius was, because Marius is the biggest lightweight I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, just even as good as Steve McDonald is, Marius is bigger in terms of the actual size and the muscle bellies. Stephen obviously would probably always beat him just because obviously Stephen is a freaky conditioned like and just has so much detail. You know what I mean? But Marius is one of the biggest lightweights I've seen. And again, like we were talking about with Justin, how did Marius make the lightweights? I don't know. Like the only thing I could see is like his bones are hollow or something. Because like how is he like that big and making a lightweight cutoff, depending again what the cutoff is. And the thing is, Marius can get tighter, so he'll probably be even lighter as the season goes on. So he's gonna really excel if he carries on. His coach was saying he's been on the bad end of a couple of split decisions and a couple of tight decisions in second place this year, so he was a bit gutted to have it again, but. This is bodybuilding, and he's still an exceptional athlete. And as Luke said, like we as soon as he turned around and hit his back double, like we said, yeah, that's Dirk Emmerich. Like his trademark, posterior conditioning and muscle size, like that's what Marius had. And Philip in third, really high level. Again, lightweight, very good, very lean. And again, another very similar frame to Ethan, probably just a few years behind in development, if it's fair. And that's to say, Ethan's what 25, 26. He's not an old bodybuilder by any stretch. So it just shows that there's a lot of talent coming through. And again, shout out to Chris Edge in fourth, like one of the nicest people in bodybuilding. If you ever do a BNBF show, he will be backstage helping out. Lovely bloke. Great to see him back. Did a really, really good routine, one of the best in a day, in my opinion, and was just a little bit unlucky to come up against, some of these guys. And it was a tough class, but he will be back, I'm sure. And it was great to see him. And so shout out to Chris, one of the real good ones in this sport. But yeah, another freaky, top three. And like I say, we were surprised that Ethan to be a lightweight. And again, that's not to be disrespect, because he's such a big guy, especially when you see him in the off season. Like, he's fucking massive. Like, you see him at shows last year, and he's just huge. So you just think, like, how the hell is he sucked down to lightweight? But he hasn't lost any muscle by doing that. So, Ethan's one of those. Like, at the British, you just think, with respect, you struggle to see how there's another lightweight who can take him. I know we've had a few middleweight winners who potentially could they suck down and get into lightweights, like a Dan Sutcliffe, but that would be a great battle between the two. Two very different physiques, it's fair to say. But Ethan's one of those, like, you think if someone of his muscle size gets to lightweight, like how do you defeat that? So yeah, he's an exceptional bodybuilder, and just the start of his season, I'm sure he will win at least one national title. I know that's a big claim, but I'm pretty confident that's the case. In one of the federations this year, he will be taking that home, and very, very deserving. So, and again, it just, like I said at the start of the show, great to see someone go away, make improvements, get strong, eat a lot of food, come back, and they're completely different to when they first did the show as a novice 3 years ago. So yeah, another immense open class on the day, and these open classes are no joke. Like, you never turn up to a qualifier expecting, oh yeah, I think it'll be pretty average. No, not these days. A few years ago, maybe. Not these days. It just doesn't happen anymore. But the level is improving year on year.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing to mention as well, going back on the actual cutoff point for the show, I think it was slightly heavier than it's been at other qualifiers, probably just due to the sheer amount of muscle mass that was there at this qualifier. And one thing to say is, like, you never know what class you're really going to fall in. I think it was up to 74 kilos in the lightweights here. Ethan was about. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's it's definitely not 4 kilos to come off Ethan's frame anyway. It's certainly not. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the middles when it comes towards British finals. So a couple of these maybe flip-flopping around in terms of where they fall. So yeah, just nail the best overall look, because you don't know where you're going to fall at the end of the day, rather than trying to pick where you're going to fall. Just bring the best overall package, and that's something you can be definitely happy with at the end of the day. Then moving on to our overall figure winner. The overall winner and the winner of figure, Louise Nadine, taking the win in a good figure class. Also seeing Loz return to stage after 5 years off, I believe, moving from bikini up into this class. Her shape fitting very, very well in this class as well. Obviously put on a lot of muscle in that time off and away from stage, and putting a lot of educational content out there. But yeah, Louise being the clear kind of standout winner here in terms of shape and structure there. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Loz is knocking on the door for some first places coming towards back end of shows. Very impressive showing, and I'm sure she will get sharper under the guidance of AJ as well. And then Emily Richardson in third place. But I think it was quite clear to see that first and second well above Emily for on the day, which is fair to say. But yeah, very good figure class here.
Yeah, like we said about Louise at the beginning of the show, like she's pro standard, absolutely, already. So it would be a great shame to see her not get some sort of pro recognition by the end of the year. She's at that level. She's one of the best amateur figure girls I think we've seen in a long time, and is, like, we're on about Ethan in terms of the perfect bodybuilder. Like, Louise wouldn't be a million miles away from if you were making a figure athlete from scratch. Like, you'd probably build her frame, like tall, lots of muscle, perfect X frame, all these kind of things. Poses very well, presents herself very well, as you'd expect from a multiple, national champion. So as soon as she stepped out, I think it was fair to say, from the first front relax, she won the class. And I imagine she'd do that in most figure classes. BNBF qualifier overall winners, were figure girls, so it's shaping up like the British figure lineup will be exceptional, as you'd expect. And I know Louise, she said she's got a few more shows on the horizon, so it'd be interesting to see where she goes with those. Obviously, for those who might not know, she's a partner is the legend, the natty legend, Stevie Howarth, who won everything you could ever want to win as a natty bodybuilder, and will go down as one of the, if we had a bit of a Hall of Fame, I'm sure he'd be firmly in it. So not a bad training partner and partner to have. And like you say, Loz, really good to see, particularly for females, because obviously we know it's a lot harder and a lot more painstaking to add significant amount of muscle to your frame, and she's taken many years off, which can be hard in this day and age, because we both know the pressures of social media, and particularly when you're seen as a bit of a, I hate to use the phrase, but influencer within the sport. Obviously, her and AJ have built something very special within the natty bodybuilding community. She's got a well-received podcast, a good coach in her own right, and a lot of girls look up to her, and so you could imagine the pressure to compete, year after year or every other year could be there, because obviously you get more traction when you compete. We know this, especially if you do those moody reels with the old put your age, weight, and natty status on, you tend to get thousands of new followers. As we'll talk about one of our next winners, he does that a lot, and it works. It does work. So that's the algorithm. So for her to take so much time away, but then come back and actually show the fruits of that labour is really good to see. And yeah, I think she surprised quite a few people in terms of how close she is to these higher caliber levels of figure girls, because to say she's gone from bikini to figure, and she's still a very, very young girl in herself, like only in her early mid-20s. So yeah, I think with her, as she gets sharper through the season, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if she's not taking a couple of first places in some good lineups, because the frame is very much there. It just, like you say, that muscle maturity that you get just from time. Again, Louise has been competing a long time compared. But yeah, and another thing to say about Loz, as you can see her in this photo, it was great to see someone on stage who genuinely, you could see the passion coming through every pose. Don't get me wrong, me and Luke love competing. We're always happy when we're up there, but sometimes you can see a few people up there who it's just a bit more serious, for maybe not smiling or whatever, but she was just clearly happy every moment on stage, soaking it all up, enjoying it, actually enjoying it. And now a lot of people say, "Oh, I enjoy it," but we don't really. You can tell they look a bit moody on stage, but just enjoyed every moment. And you know what? That's what it's all about. Placings aside, it's about loving this game. Otherwise, why would you do all those hard hours in the gym, those hard hours in the car, doing cardio or your steps, that hard time dieting down or eating those meals in the off season when you don't feel like doing it? If you don't do it to enjoy it on the day, what's the point? So yeah, a really, really good figure class. Emily Third, just a bit unlucky to come up against two pretty good athletes. But again, in her own right, she looked good, had a good frame for figure. So yeah, the BNBF British figure lineup could be one of the best ever, potentially.
Yeah, certainly so. And yeah, it was clear to see that Loz certainly enjoyed herself up there, which is great to see, especially with having quite a high presence within the sport now as well. Then on to our biggest class of the day, I believe, with classic bodybuilding. Yeah, certainly the biggest class of the day. Actually, funny, there was we had an arch, a semicircle for these athletes around the stage, just because of how big it was. Didn't really go to plan. But yeah, this class is obviously a
Took a while to get there.
Yeah, it definitely took a while to get there, but funny to see, especially being at the show. But yeah, classic bodybuilding winner, Jonathan Rimmer. Very, very polished look, very classic. His routine was very, very special as well. I think he had some help with Josh Olegaki on this one. I believe he mentioned at the show that he helped with his posing, his routine. And yeah, very, very good routine put there. And yeah, top to toe. Great condition, good balance, very good structure for it as well. A little bit taller than some of the athletes. I think in this class, majority of the athletes was a little bit taller, which kind of like suits well within this class generally as well, especially in today's day and age. But the winner of a very, very good standard of athletes. As we saw in some of the classes earlier, well, I say earlier in the podcast, couple of international athletes up there as well. Some of them with heaps of muscle or great conditioning as well. But yeah, this top five was very, very good. Great pool of athletes, and there's some because of the amount of competitors within this class. We had some very, very good competitors missing out on this top five with heaps of potential that would have placed top three in some other classes. So don't be disheartened. I'm sure there's some come in like it's either the first show of the season or they thought they'd go into classic bodybuilding because they like that style. But yeah, just keep pushing on. It was a very, very good standard, and to come to place within a top five out of 15 athletes, you've definitely got to brought it on the day. But yeah, Jonathan Rimmer, I'd say most complete overall within this class. Looking back on it, second and third place, I think, was bit of a toss up. I'd say second was just a little bit harder, whereas Lewis, whereas actually Machete, isn't it, on Instagram in third place. Absolutely ecstatic with his third place as well. Heaps of muscle there, just not quite as hard as our second place on the day. And then Brandon and Odonuya, I think that is Josh's client, isn't it? In fourth place. Apologies if I've butchered your name. But yeah, heaps of muscle. I mean, he's very, very bubbly, like very aesthetic physique, particular from the upper half. Like he comes out and you're like, yeah, beautiful shape, beautiful lines, great to look at. And Brandon taking fifth place on the day. But yeah, awesome standard. And I wouldn't be surprised if come towards finals, obviously. I wouldn't imagine two of these athletes. I believe some are actually coming back in towards finals, so don't be surprised. Don't be surprised. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit of a flip flop around in terms of the top five here, because all these are up there with cracking top five at a British level. And some come in and tweak a couple of things. Wouldn't be surprised if there's a bit of a change round within that top five there. But yeah, it was wrapping off a very, very good standard of classic bodybuilding, and they all brought it in terms of what we asked for within classic bodybuilding, like a great routine, confidence with the posing, very symmetrical, well balanced as well, small waist. All five of these athletes definitely had an abundance of that, and that's great to see. And this class going in the right direction anyway.
Yeah, it was undoubtedly class of the day in terms of depth of talent, in terms of just standard. There was about 16 guys, and I mean, you could have argued for 12 of them to have placed top five, like genuinely. That, you know, sometimes when you have these bigger lineups, particularly like in novice, as you'd expect, but when you have bigger lineups in, say, juniors or teens or classic, you know, sometimes with respect, like half of them can be not quite the standard, but you know, to warrant a higher placing. Whereas in this 16, nearly all were very good. So there's going to be some guys who've gone away and probably thought, fucking hell, like I thought I was looking all right, and I'll just say to you, like you were just unlucky. Like this was not this was a world's level classic physique, like in terms of how many good athletes were on that stage. So if you didn't place, do not be disheartened. I know, shout out the biggest one, quite literally in terms of height, Bert, Adam's client. He was shredded, huge. He's a junior, so he just wanted to do classic at this qualifier, but he'd be doing junior, I think, for the rest of the season, and he was incredible. And I was a little bit surprised that he did get overlooked because he was the most peeled on stage, and I know not necessarily the wanting that in classic. And he had loads of muscle, potentially posed a little bit tight. I think he was a bit nervous, But someone like him didn't even place, and he'll probably go away thinking, "Oh shit!" But honestly, it was a European lineup, or even world's level. You could even argue like it pro caliber. So yeah, this top five was very good. Jonathan on the day was probably just the most balanced in terms of muscle condition, and frame compared to, like you say, Lewis was probably leaner, and Mache was probably bigger, but Jonathan would probably have the best of both, and a very good win for another young man. So he's got a bright future, and again at the British, I'm sure he'll be bringing it. Odinea in fourth. Like Luke said, this is one of those athletes who, do not be surprised in 5 weeks that he's not top 2 or 3 at a British, because he, I think he won't mind me saying, like Josh was saying, he basically got back from holiday like a week before the show, and he competed earlier in the year. And Josh just kind of said, look, and he kind of said, "Oh, should we just do the Northern, just see what happens, do Classic?" So yeah, he wasn't at the conditioning level that I'd probably be happy with, but he still looked very good, and he's got a very, very bright future in terms of the muscle he's got, the frame he's got. If he spends the next 5 weeks getting a lot tighter, he will be up there. Like, and this is what we've said before in previous episodes. Like, don't just take your place in a qualifier to mean absolutely everything, because someone like Adonai will come back tighter and could be taking. He could beat Jonathan in 5 weeks' time. Like he could. Like he's in terms of if he gets a lot leaner, like that's it could happen, and results can reverse. And shout out to Brandon, already competed a few times this year, and getting better, getting tighter, and has made a lot of improvements since I competed against him in 2022 in the middles. He jumped over to Classic, and I think that's probably serves him better. He's got a lovely frame. He's a tall lad. Really, really lovely X-frame. From the front, he's almost unbeatable, I'd say, like in a Classic lineup. And then when he turns around, he's not maybe as stand out, but yeah, his front shots are absolutely brilliant, and great to see him come back, and he's a good lad. And just shout out to Mache in third. He mustache of the day. Absolutely unbelievable mustache. Full handlebar, and to fair, Jonathan had a good mustache as well. For these Classic guys, I think it's part of it, but full handlebar, stuck up. With a top knot, and they actually mid routine remove the top knot and then let the flowing locks come down. So that was a quite a funny part of the routine. But just to jump on what Luke said about the routines, like it was actually nice to see Classic lineups where the routines were all very, very good. And I was saying to Craig, who we were sat with, Craig Hurst, our good friend, like, it pisses us off when you watch Classic lineups and the routines are crap, or like they're just a bit forgettable, or sometimes they can't even hit the poses properly in the mandatories. And Classic, to me and to Craig, and certainly Luke agrees, like it should be about the posing. Like you should be an immaculate poser if you're doing Classic, because that's part of the criteria in what I view the criteria as. Yes, the frame is a big part of it, but if your routines are crap, or you look like you've just cobbled it together, just 5 minutes before you got on stage, like, don't do Classic, because all 5 of these guys, Lewis in second was the routine of the day. Really, really high level. Absolutely fantastic. So, yeah, the class of the day, a headache for the judges. And like you say, they kept them out. I think they did the most call-outs of any of the classes. And at the end, we tried to get them all to pose in one big line, which took about 10 minutes to actually get them all to understand where they needed to stand. And then every time they hit a pose, they kept edging forward because everyone's elbows were hitting. So obviously they'd step forward, but then the person to their left or right would step forward. And before you knew it, everyone was at the front of the stage anyway. And it was just all a bit of a mess. But we tried. And yeah, a really, really decent class. But don't be surprised if these placings don't change as the season goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fair to say, even just, rightly said, with Lewis being, as you mentioned there, as I was going to say, routine of the day, hands down, it was just phenomenal. hitting everything, every pose towards the beat. But yeah, as these came out, it was eyes was on Odanuya at the side of the stage, just stood there relaxed. She was like, who is that guy? It's bubbly, aesthetic. So yeah, don't be surprised if you see these big classes and you're thinking, God, this guy's easily winning the class, because when they hit the poses and they go around, like, yes, is he within the top five, but he doesn't necessarily mean he's going to win the class on the day. Then into our men's athletic class. And what I'd say with what Callum brought is exactly what men's athletic is, or what it was previously years ago. Yeah, like very well conditioned, very sharp, top to toe. Not as big as a bodybuilder, not as big as a classic bodybuilder. Just very crisp, sharp, and kind of aesthetic within the small and muscled class, really. And yeah, pretty much what you'd expect at Man's Athletic. And then shout out to Mike Hall, from Huddersfield as well, trained at Top Bodies. His first show, I think 58 years old, I believe, as well. So 58 years old, first time into stage, and yeah, condition, particularly through his lower half, and big changes, complete lifestyle switch for him. So yeah, impressed to see. And I know he mentioned he enjoyed the process, which was great to hear as well. But yeah, just up against what you'd expect to be like British standard within men's athletic, with Callum on the day. I think he was a little bit gutted. There were just like two within this class, but tends to be the case at qualifiers, not quite as big as the other classes. But we do tend to find a very, very good standard at men's athletic when it comes towards British finals, as we've seen in previous years. But yeah, clear winner on the day, which is fair to say for Callum, and a very, very good package. And I think with a couple of years away from stage, with a good off season, he would make a very, very good bodybuilder. Just particularly bringing them legs up to kind of match the upper, really. But yeah, condition brought there, good lines, good separation, and yeah, good package brought to stage, really, for Callum.
Yeah, like you say, Callum, and I told him on in the message actually, like for athletic, like if the BNBF were putting a picture of someone to say, right, this is what we're looking for men's athletic, they'd probably put a picture of Callum. So I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't go on to take the British based on fulfillment of criteria. And that's obviously what they should be rewarding, because ultimately, if they want the class to grow within the criteria, they need to give people who fit it perfectly credence over, potentially a quote unquote better bodybuilder. Like we saw at previous qualifiers, and we discussed that on the Midlands episode particularly. And yeah, like you say, shout out to Mike. Didn't realise he was in his late 50s. Like, fantastic journey to see someone like that. And this is what we said before. Don't always look at someone on stage and just judge them based purely on, like what they look like in terms of comparing to like other athletes. Like, you don't know the process, you don't know the story behind why they've competed. Like Luke says, Luke knows Mike a bit from his gym. He's probably come from a background of, maybe he's lost a lot of weight, transformed his life, transformed everything, and fair play to him. If you to compete at the end of that is not an easy feat for anyone, never mind someone in the late 50s. So you never know, like, if he enjoyed it and he comes back, we might see him in a Grandmasters or even an over 60s lineup, which I don't think he would be too far away from, placing amongst them. So yeah, really, really good athletic class. And Callum, he fulfills it very good, and it's some of the sharpest conditioning of the day, I'd argue. So yeah, I think small class, but a very, very good winner in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we'll go through to our Miss Athletic class. We also seen Jessica in women's bodybuilding as well, which would have been earlier in the day. And I think because it's clear to see with the amount of muscle mass she had, definitely I'd say more fitted towards women's bodybuilding. And I think with the shape as well, could probably like a more of a crossover into figure as well, personally. But I don't know if this was the class she wanted to do and see where she'd kind of fall and so on there. But yeah, still taking the win on the day of a very good Miss Athletic class as well. Some of these athletes that we've seen previous before. Becky Squires keeps going on there as well. And she's another athlete that looks like she absolutely loves a time up on stage, which is really, really good to see. But yeah, very good class here. Some quite similar physiques within this class. So I think it was quite a tough one for the judges in regards to like placing here. Particularly from like second to third, like in terms of like some like structures and so on. I think like Lucy Hopper in third place, particularly like stronger in the upper half. But then Cassandra like coming in second, stronger in the lower half. And then fourth and fifth with Lisa and Becky. I wouldn't be. I'd just say Lisa's just a little bit sharper there. But Becky from doing like shows to shows, sometimes he's kind of like expected. You may not be exactly 100% from one show to the other. They may be trying different peaks and so on from there. And it's great to get experience from show to show. And it's great to see that she's actually absolutely loving it up on there. But I think, yeah, Jessica had the overall like best balance through from here, most muscled, most conditioned. But yeah, in a very good Miss Athletic class. And it's good to see a high number of athletes within this class as well, isn't it?
Yeah, with this athletic class, I think it was the female class of the day. All five got an invite to finals because they said it was such a high standard. Obviously, Becky had already got hers earlier in the season, and genuinely, I could, and this not disrespectful to other girls who've competed early in the season, athletic. This could be a British top five, like straight up. High standard. Jessica, as we said, was a huge amount of muscle. We noted for her quads are huge. She had a lot of good condition. A hamstring drop was something we both envy. She had a lot of muscle in the lower half, and she won this class and she won bodybuilding early in the day quite clearly, and she wasn't a million miles away from Louise in the overall, in my opinion. And as you'd expect with athletic, the routines were very good. Lisa in fourth, her routine really stood out, and she had a lot of her family in the front row, which was great to see. And you could clearly tell she was absolutely loving it up there. Lucy, we've seen plenty of times already this season. Won the MPA overall earlier in the year, and very good athlete. Probably one of those could do figure, could do athletic, and would hold her own in both. And then Cassandra in second, a lot of muscle and pretty lean as well. So yeah, this was a really good level class, and like I say, if you saw the same top five at the finals, maybe in a slightly different order, like you wouldn't be surprised. Like that's the level we were kind of dealing with, and it was good to see this athletic class grow, because in previous years it's sometimes been a bit underpopulated, but really good across the board here, and it's always good to see, like, yes, there were only five in the class, but all five are of a level. It's sometimes you see sometimes when it's a smaller class, maybe like two or three are good, and then the other two or three might be a little bit like okay, average. But all five were very good and capable of on another day winning a show. So yeah, really good lineup, and they all like having fun. And like I said, the routines were all very good standard, as you'd expect from athletic, and as you kind of all wanted to do, like athletic, fit body, physique. Like part of the criteria is they let you really express yourself in the routine side of things, and ladies bodybuilding as well. So you a bit like what we were talking about the classic, like it doesn't, you obviously don't get judged on it, but like if your routine is a bit it's one of those where you're like, that's part of it. It's almost a bit like the not quite as extreme as the fitness in the IFPB, but it's not a million miles away, and some of them are a very, very memorable routine. So yeah, really, really good, strong, athletic class, and I'm sure, like you say, if a 4-5 going to the British, it will be another.
Yeah, absolutely. And then going over to our novice class, another class with a high number of athletes, as expected, which is great to see as well, because these are new. Generally, these are new faces towards sport, new people getting into the sport, or athletes that haven't previously placed within a top 3 or top 3 generally beforehand. And it's good to see the standard actually growing within novice as well. So across the board, especially within that top 5, some phenomenal athletes, and something that both me and Finn have mentioned beforehand. Some of these athletes, like, we will have from like first place, you tend to find very, very well balanced bodybuilders, and then, but I'd say within this class, like all 5 of them was all well balanced. None of them really had like glaring weaknesses or anything. But just some harder, more conditioned, some more heavily muscled, particularly with the winner, Florian, than the others on the day. And then it can just boil down to shape within this class. It's kind of like an apples versus oranges, because there's many of different kind of shapes, many of different kind of weights within this, because it's not kind of like a weight cut off within there as well. So quite a tough one for the judges, really, with judging many different shapes and muscularity, condition, and so on from there. Particularly as we go from like our top 5. I mean, Fabio there within, I'd imagine he'd fall within a kind of a lightweight category. He would place very, very well within a lightweight class generally as well. Maybe not at this show due to the actual stupidity of the standard there. But yeah, very, very well polished physique, like great condition, good muscularity. Just up against, then we have Austin Waddington in 4th. Again, very, very good. Great bodybuilder. A bit more muscle than Fabio in 5th place. Great condition. He did improve for finals from with his with rectifying his tanning his glaze, and looked much sharper when it came into finals and pre-judging. And rightly so, a good place in there. And Divine in 3rd place. Someone who we've seen on before, coached by Adam Powell. Heaps of muscle, very, very aesthetic shape, great sweep to his quads. Just, yeah, very bubbly as well. Great physique. I think within the last 2 weeks, I had to pull off 6 kilos to get down in towards that, because I had a lot of like stresses, external stresses outside of bodybuilding. But he's done, yeah, phenomenal to actually like really bring it in like this, and wouldn't be surprised if Divine's like knocking on the door for taking the top spot for the novice coming in towards British finals, because yeah, he's got all the tools there. And then yeah, David in 2nd place, like heaps of muscle on this guy. Quite kind of like a shorter frame, but yeah, heaps of muscle for on this guy. He was in kind of like some classic bodybuilding trunks, which was, I'd say it was probably kind of throwing off his shape a little bit. It was clear to see that he had like heaps of muscle there, very conditioned, but overall, I think, yeah, Florian just best overall balance within this class. Not definitely room for him to kind of improve, not as hard as some of the other athletes, particularly like Ossian and Fabio. But yeah, most muscled there, tight waist, very aesthetic shape, didn't really have a weak pose. And rounding off a very, very good class. But yeah, some great athletes in there. And I'm sure when these kind of come into the open weight classes, they will do damage for sure. All 5 of these athletes, because yeah, they all have the potential to do very, very well within them classes once they move into them.
Yeah, it was a typical novice class, wasn't it? Especially what you see at the BNBF. 15, 16 guys, all different shapes, sizes, levels of muscularity, levels of condition. No particular kind of one standout in terms of, I know at the Midlands we had Rue, who ended up winning the overall. Like, he's a bit of a one-off when it comes to novices. Very, very good. And it's another one of those where this top 5 could be completely different in 5 weeks' time if all did the British. Like, Fabio could get a little bit tighter and actually win. It's one of those lineups. So certainly Florian had just the best of everything. Best muscularity, best balance, best condition. He was very, very close with David in second, and both came over from Germany. But I agree with Luke. I think what might have cost him is his trunks made his frame look a bit off, because they were almost on the verge, like you say, of being like a bit more classic, like short style trunks rather than actual like pant style trunks. Like it, and he had them quite low down on his waist, and it just threw off his X-frame a little bit. So a bit of a that's something you can rectify quite easily. And I think had he had that, he could have taken it maybe. Divine in third, and I'll say this, and obviously it's nothing he doesn't know already, but Adam won't have told him. Like at his best, he should be winning this show without even breaking a sweat. Like his frame and potential is ridiculous. And yeah, he had a few things go on outside of the gym a few weeks ago that caused a lot of issues within his prep, which is it's unfortunate these things happen. But at his best, he would have won this class quite comfortably because he is big, very big guy, lots of muscle, ridiculous genetics. And from what his coach was saying, he's only really been training properly bodybuilding wise the last 2 years or so. So, put another 5 years on this frame, and we might be seeing someone who is one of the best ever, potentially. Like ridiculous starting point and foundations. And if he gets tighter for the future shows in the season, like don't be, he's going to go from third to being an overall candidate. Like he's that good. And like you say, Oshin in fourth, absolutely shredded to the bone, really high level conditioning. And I don't think he'll mind me saying his coach put on there is about it. Yeah, don't moisturize when you're getting your tan the day off because it will fuck it up. So there you go. That's apparently what he did. And obviously a first timer, sometimes you don't know, especially if you're just in a bit of a routine of moisturizing every day and things like that. Like these things happen. So fortunately for him, he managed to save it, and he brought out a very shredded package later in the day, which definitely got him a place. And then Fabio, like Luke said in fifth, will be a great lightweight competitor in the future. All 5 of these will be great open competitors, and that's what you get. In the novice, you get people at the start of their journey who, in 3, 4, 5 years' time, will be winning open titles, national titles, and go on from there. And that's very much what this class was. It was probably, although classic was the class of the day, I think this was the hardest to judge because there was these 5 and probably another 3 who all had very similar physiques, and it was very difficult to kind of differentiate. So there's probably a couple of lads who would have been like 6th, 7th, and 8th in this lineup who probably feel a bit hard done by. But again, it's just the nature of the beast. Like it was a very close lineup of similar physiques. And that's what you can get in a novice. So if we've got people who are listening who are the novice competitors of 2025 or 2026, just bring the best package you can in terms of balance of condition and size. And it's a bit of a shootout with novices, so don't overthink in terms of like, oh, shall I be this way or anything like that. Like you're in the open, like just do your best, bring it, and know that the novices can be a bit of a just mix and match of all kind of different physiques. So if you play to your strengths, that's all you can do.
Yeah, definitely so. And then we go back towards our bodybuilding classes, women's bodybuilding. And it's great to see like a lot, like more people doing women's bodybuilding, because sometimes with qualifiers, we might just see just the one person step in towards this category. And yeah, it's good to see a lot of people like a lot of females taking more interest within women's bodybuilding. I know Loz in particular, this is the class she wants to kind of build and grow into within the years to come. And yeah, with her hitting her most muscular here, she actually looks like more heavily muscled within this shot, particularly in the lower half. But I think, yeah, stand out there. As we've mentioned, that side leg, that is the hamstring drop on Jessica taking the win on this class. Very, very impressive to see. It's also a shout out to Emily as well, because taking third place in this class, but she looks more suited within this class, which is fair to say, because it definitely highlights how much muscle mass she does have. And I think with a couple more pounds off, it will highlight that even more once she comes even more conditioned. And I think with the tan here, she's definitely darker than the others, but I think in terms of the glaze, maybe not as much glaze there. Which might have done her a little bit of a disservice there. So just things to note. But yeah, particularly that the side chest. And I think Jessica is a client of Loz's as well. So definitely a good day for her on the day. But yeah, very, very good to see, especially these all three of them transitioning through poses, and also the what they actually put within to their routines as well. All three of them very, very polished routines on the day, which is great to see, because these females put a lot of effort, not just within to their bodybuilding process, but also into their posing routines. And it's clear to see, and it's, yeah, very entertaining to watch on the day as well. But yeah, rounding off a very good class. And yeah, all three of these have great potential within this class. Like good frames there for it. Just yeah, keep doing what you're doing, and I wouldn't be surprised if Jessica is knocking on the door for a British title and moving into a pro rank come the end of the year.
Yeah, the bodybuilding class at the BNBF allows people to do two classes to jump in and see how they kind of fare, and if they enjoy it, if because they're trying to grow the class ultimately. And we know ladies bodybuilding can be quite underpopulated, unfortunately. But I would agree. I think Jessica, more so, as good as she was in athletic and as dominating as she was, I think she's potentially more suited to bodybuilding just because the amount of muscle mass she has. And I think it's a class that rewards a bit more size potentially. And she was quite a clear winner in this class. And like I say, we've seen all three already in this show, so we don't need to go over the physiques much more. But again, just good to see people having a go, stepping out of the comfort zone. I know for someone like Loz, I think she said like long term she wants to grow into this class as her full time class, which is a great thing to chase down. So ultimately, it's one of those where if you have a go at it, see how far away you are from someone like a Jessica. If it's just a couple of years more muscle maturity, then that's it. You go away and you get it smashed. And I do believe actually, it's just made me think. I'm sure Jessica is actually Loz's client. I'm sure someone said that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, great. As a coach to share the stage and actually be beaten by your client. It's not. Maybe it's bittersweet. Maybe okay, I want to win, but at the same time, your client's just won and beat you, which is a proud moment. So, yeah, a great thing for any coach to share the stage with a client. Never mind to be actually bettered by them on the day, but yeah, a good old class this, and it's good to see people having a go at bodybuilding and actually potentially discovering that they're pretty well suited to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there, great shot within there. And as much muscle mass as Jessica has here, I think she could probably display a bit more. I mean, the delts look wicked through on here. But yeah, if them elbows were raised a little higher, I think it'd highlight even more, well, how much more muscle she actually has there. Then going into our Mr. Reels of the season, Dante Edwards. Yeah, phenomenal shape this man has, and rightly so, taking best wheels on the day. And in terms of actual aesthetic and yeah, overall like shape and structure and the sweep to them, I've not seen much better really. And he's already harder than this with recent updates. So excited to see how this shape looks. as the season progresses for him. But yeah, rightly so. And I'd fair to say, yeah, clear winner on the day. Someone who was actually not far off knocking on the door of a heavyweight already, which for a 22-year-old, not exactly the tallest. I think he's about 5'8", 5'9". So to be up there with nearly knocking on at 80 kilos on stage condition, it just highlights how much muscle mass this has. But yeah, in terms of another one, very similar in terms of actual shape and structure to our overall winner. Not as hard as him, but in terms of the actual silhouette, like if you were going to draw like the outline of a silhouette of a bodybuilder, you'd be similar with choosing Dante's physique, tight waist, round shoulders, like sweeping quads. It's exactly what you look for really, and it's going to be very, very hard to beat on the day, even with some very, very good juniors on the day as well. But yeah, as soon as he stood out, it was quite a clear winner on the day. Posed with confidence and someone who's definitely put the work in within his posing. Like his stage presence was certainly felt straight away. Hit his poses very well, stayed within his poses. And if you're a new competitor stage, can kind of take a leaf out of his book, because he definitely looked the most composed within his poses on there. So he definitely put his effort into his posing on the day. And then rounded off a good top three. Maximilian in third place. I think very good, good structure, good shape. Unfortunately, not fully in this shot for him. But yeah, I think kind of rounding off a well kind of polished look for him. Glazed very, very well, which is clear to see on the photos. And Talib O'Connor taking second place. Both Talib and Dante both train at EP as well. So first and second for EP on the day. But I want to shout out Talib as well, because the improvements he's made throughout, so not been training that long. I mean, neither has Dante either. But the improvements he's actually made through his prep, it's actually looked like his legs have grown throughout his prep. It's just unfortunate you're obviously standing up against Dante on the day, but he's one to look out for. Great muscle, like really round muscle bellies, but also very kind of like thin skin, which is like granite condition. I'd say particularly sharper than Dante, particularly from the rear, and his side shots, like his side chest, very, very aesthetic. So when he puts some mass on and like moves into open classes in the years to come, he will certainly be very, very dangerous. Good routine by both them two as well. Standouts within the class. But yeah, rounding off a very, very good class within juniors, and these guys will be stepping into the open classes in years to come. But yeah, Dante is one who could be knocking on the door for pro status if he brings it towards finals within the upcoming weeks.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And you say these are the open guys of the future. Like, well, yeah, someone like Dante might skip the open, because if everything, if he gets tighter, like him slightly leaner is almost unbeatable. So he's certainly one which could make a bit of history, and be an overall chaser as a junior, which I think at a British level, off the top of my head, Keefe is the only one who's done that.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of caliber he'd be stepping in. Huge quads, biggest of the day, enormous sweep and thickness to them, and whatever he does for legs, clearly his response to that is outstanding, and just the perfect X frame, bubbly physique, balance, symmetry, all the things you want. Confidence as well. He's a very confident young man. He knows how good he is, and I mean that in a nice way. And he understands how good his physique is in terms of like, and you can see that shine on stage, like that confidence as soon as he hits his front relaxed. So yeah, he is clearly an excellent like junior, and one of the best juniors we've seen in a long time. Of which we've seen quite a few, and because juniors always bring you know, some freaks of nature, but he's outstanding. And I believe he's doing the UK FBA next weekend, and he's doing the Open. I think he's doing open bodybuilding as a bit of a, okay, let's see where I'm at. And yeah, I think he could upset a few people. Oh, really? Okay, then. Yeah, so yeah, I think he could upset a few people, certainly. So, yeah, he's a very, very, very high level athlete. And yeah, as Luke said, to be in the upper 70s on stage as a junior already is pretty scary because, you know, with a good off season, he could be a heavyweight, never mind a middleweight, and on a shorter than the average heavyweights frame, that's pretty terrifying. And Talib in second, really want to shout his condition out. He probably was one of the leanest in the entire show, across all classes. I think it's fair to say, particularly like Luke said from the rear. His potential is very, very high. You know, he's a world class open lightweight competitor of the future, 100%. You know, he's still got quite a young physique right now. Like Luke said, he's not been training loads. He definitely has grown on prep. If you see his prep start point in January, like he's only lost, I think, 7 kilo on his entire prep, but he looks like his legs have doubled. His legs have legitimately doubled. So we saw that with Josh Campbell last year. Like some of these younger athletes can grow on prep, like they can against all odds because their training potentially is improving, even though they're in a huge deficit. So yeah, Talib is an excellent junior competitor. He just came up against, you know, a once in a blue moon type in Dante, and Maximilian in third, decent junior. In any other normal show, he's probably, you know, winning that quite comfortably. Similar physique, maybe not as big legs as Harry, who won a couple of junior titles earlier in the year, in terms of frame and upper body mass. So it just shows you like the level of this particular trio. So yeah, Dante took best wheels and was probably a hair's breadth away from taking the overall. I think it was between him and Ethan, realistically. And maybe a touch of condition on the day just won it for Ethan. But as Luke said, both had the similar physique in terms of the frame and the balance. And both are excellent bodybuilders. So yeah, it was great to see the next generation shining through. So yeah, with future shows, I'm confident Dante will win at least one national title, if not potentially bigger honours.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think particularly going back onto the overall in terms of the wow factor, like Dante definitely had more of that. But then when you're going through pose for pose, you're like, actually he's a little bit sharper with Ethan and so on. And particularly from when Dante came out within the juniors, when he hit his front relaxed, definitely, I'd say in person, it's probably the most aesthetic, the best front relaxed I've seen. Probably the closest towards a Nigel Davis. I think someone actually mentioned that to him on the day, and he was like, "Right, I'll definitely take that." Such a kind of pretty aesthetic physique just there. And another shout out to Talib as well, because he actually started this prep. He considered him and his coach Adam was actually looking at doing men's physique at the start of this prep. I'm just glad you haven't, mate, because the potential is definitely there. And with a good couple of years, you'll be a very, very good lightweight bodybuilder. Already a good bodybuilder, but step up even more, mate. And then into our teen class, and this class here, number of athletes within this class, and the standard within teens, and it's not just coming into like British level at the standard of teens is growing, but across all of the qualifiers, like standard is there. There's a number of athletes doing it, a great amount of muscularity within the class, good condition, and great shape. But Brandon overall just nailed all of them. Someone that's competed before within other federations, but I think since we're working with Kiefer, has improved significantly. I did look on his profile; is improved tremendous amounts within not a huge amount of time as well. And it goes to show, like trusting like a coach who's done the do before, so to speak. definitely pays dividends for your overall kind of like physique package. It may not get rewarded in terms of placing sometimes, but I can guarantee you will improve as an athlete from your overall package. It wasn't exactly the easiest of classes. I'd definitely say he was there and looked the most complete, had the best kind of shape, structure. But yeah, very, very good top five within the team class. Dan Jones coming in second place. I know he was a little bit good, but doing back-to-back shows. I think his coach mentioned he actually peaked for the show the day before. He did the Two Bros Natural, winning that in true novice, I believe. But yeah, especially for any athlete, but particularly an athlete within a teenage in his early years, you just can't respond to doing back-to-back peaks. But it's lesson learned. I think if he definitely brought, he'd certainly be pushing Brandon there. But yeah, not to kind of take anything away from Brandon, because that very, very good condition, particularly through the lower half, and a very polished look and tight waist and great quad sweep as well. I'm sure as he adds mad towards them quads in years to come, that'll be very, very good. And then Matthew Edgerton, Megatron, I believe on Instagram, one of AJ's clients, very, very conditioned. It's particularly from the side and the rear. Huge amount, like a lot of muscle mass, particularly for a taller athlete. Like didn't look stringy there. Had a good amount of muscle mass there. Highlighted it well, posed well. Looked like he really enjoyed himself up on stage as well. And then Harry, good hamstring drop on Harry as well. Good amount of muscularity again for a taller lad. Just needs, like to fill out that frame. Just needs more years. But yeah, nonetheless, good package. And same with Jackson. I believe he's competed earlier on in the year in other federations or previously beforehand. From seeing on his profile as well, and taking fifth place in a good class. And there's a number of athletes there, and some with some good body parts missing out within that top five. But I'm sure if they keep putting in the work within the gym, doing the heavy poundages, it will soon pay off. But yeah, won't be surprised if there's an improved Dan kind of looking to push Brandon coming in towards finals as well.
Yeah, this was a really good team class. There was a few didn't place who were very, very decent, and like we said before in previous episodes, like the team standard is now akin to a junior, an open standard in terms of like in years gone by. I think it's fair to say you'd get a team lineup where you might have a winner, like Brandon, and then second, third, fourth would be we'd probably have quite a lot of ways to be improving in order to try and get first. But now we're seeing top fives who are all very, very high standard, and even guys who wouldn't place who are of a standard. So yeah, the teams are just getting better, and they've been very good in all classes. So I think the team at the British will be very, very interesting. Like Brandon is a standout, very good shape. A little bit like Talib in terms of frame. We just saw him with juniors, so you can see with a few more years maturity, and the size he puts on, he will be a very good junior or even an open bodybuilder. And Dan, like you say, in second, probably structurally wise, is the best bodybuilder on that stage, but was just a touch smooth, particularly at prejudging, because maybe it's because he did a show the day before, and 2 shows in 2 days on a young physique might be a bit difficult. But like Luke said, I think if Dan improves for finals, he could reverse this result and actually come out on top. And like you say, Harry and Matthew in third and fourth, 2 very, very tall guys, and great to see taller teams not looking too stringy, which sometimes they can, I think it's fair to say. And Harry particularly was shit tons of muscle. Just if he had that amount of muscle on Brandon's frame, he's probably unbeatable as a team. He's just obviously very tall. It's a lot harder to look as thick and dense on a taller frame, but immense conditioning, tons of muscle. Like in terms of talent wise, he's one of the most talented, potential teens of the season. Like you can see in a few years' time when he really feels like he's going to be very, very, very good. And yeah, a good top five. These are the future the sport, and it was great to see another big lineup. I think there was 10 or 11 teams, which it's just good to see this a huge amount of teams coming through, and more people coming into the sport. So yeah, I absolutely I love seeing the newcomers to the sport doing well, and Brandon was a very 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 good winner, really good condition, great frame, great aesthetics, good amount of muscle, and like you say, he's already made significant strides since his first time he competed. So already to be doing that at a tender age, like if he has another couple of years away, I'm sure he will be very, very, very special. So yeah, a good lineup, and I think all 5 got invites based on the talent.
Yeah, very, very good class rounded off with the teens there. And then we're going through to Masters figure, and a very good winner here in Victoria Beardsworth, rounding off a class of 4. I think overall the standard here was pretty good, to be fair, particularly in the first and second. I had very, very good structure and frame for it. And even even their Shoma in third, and Anne's not quite in the pose here. But yeah, our overall winner, Victoria Beardsworth, fair to say, quite a clear winner on the day. Very just like cat delts. Very, very just pleasing in terms of the actual what you're looking for within the Masters figure. Like as you can see here from the winner's photo, very well within her shorts, holds her pose very well. But then up against Tracy Hogg, who we've seen before, a lot of muscle, quads, particularly there, not quite as sharp, or as heavily muscled within the upper, as Victoria. So I think that kind of edged it on the day for her. And then Shoma in third place. Not quite as muscled as Anne, but just sharper overall. I'm rounding off a good masters figure class, really.
Yeah, good to see this class actually have people in, because I think they didn't have anyone at the Southern, and I think at the Midlands there was only 2, I think, potentially, or there might have only been 1. Either way, Victoria was a standout and another excellent winner. Like I said at the beginning of the show, the ladies overall was absolutely stacked. And Victoria is one of the better Masters physique athletes I've seen in a long, long time. And she will do very, very well as the season progresses. Within that, she tons of muscle, great frame, a very, very, very good figure athlete, and tailor-made for that. Like say Tracy in second, very, very conditioned for the class, probably on the cusp of too much for figure, but tons of muscle, really good condition. And then Shoma and Anne, good figure athletes in their own right, just beaten by just better athletes on the day, which is no shame. And I think Victoria absolutely will be a favourite for the British. I haven't seen a better Masters figure competitor all year, and I don't remember too many from times gone by. So she's a very, very high level for the category, and would more than hold her own in an open. I think it's fair to say. So yeah, great to see this class have people in finally. I know a few people have been disappointed throughout the season to not having as many in, but what we lack in numbers, we made up for in quality with this lineup. So yeah, some very, very good athletes. And like I say, Victoria absolutely stand out. As soon as she came out, first pose, boom, class kind of won. And that's no disrespect to the others. She's a level above. And again, it's great to see the caliber of athletes in these Masters, which we're going to see in a minute with the men's side of things, still shining through. Because just because you're getting a little bit older, and some of these young bucks coming through, these early 20s guys and girls, like doesn't mean like you can't bring good muscle, good condition to the stage. Like not at all. Like as we know in a natty game, you get better as you get older, by far. So yeah, great to see a good quality winner, and good to see people actually in this.
Yeah, certainly so. And then moving over to our Masters over 60, Gary Ebanks. And for those of you who was at the show, as much as the classic routines was there, I'd say his routine was definitely the most in terms of the entertainment value. A little bit of a giveaway. Gary actually had 2 pairs of trunks. He had some gold ones on there as well. I'm just glad that one pair stayed on throughout his routine. That's all I'd say. But yeah, very entertaining routine. Heaps of muscle on this guy as well. To say this is an athlete over 60 years of age, still quite a youngish looking physique. Obviously mature in terms of like the muscularity there, but still carries a good level of freshness there. And quite a lot of athlete. Yeah, we had quite a lot of this was through from over 60s above. But yeah, clear winner within the class for Gara. I think they actually put the oh no, this is all the athletes for the over 60s. Some of these athletes actually over 80. Ted, he's 83 now, so like phenomenal to see him step up on stage on there. And quite a number of these athletes definitely at the latter years and still getting up on there on stage, putting on a show, entertaining many of us from the start of the day, which is great to see. But yeah, quite a clear winner in Gary Eubanks. But shout out to the Mick Shaw there as well, because Mick Shaw keeps a muscle on him, holding that muscularity very, very well. And then William McCormick in third place, touch sharper than the other athletes within this class. But yeah, some of these touching 70s, 80s. So it's awesome to see in the over 60s have a huge number of competitors in that class as well. It's definitely one where many of the spectators love these athletes. They always put on a show. They always put on good routines. They get the crowd going from the start, really. So I think that's kind of why Vicky has this on from the start, because it definitely uplifts everyone from the start of the day for sure.
Yeah, it's always the highlight of a show, particularly at finals, because there's actually, like you say, several guys in the 60s, 70s, and the over 80s, like you say. For those of you watching on YouTube, the chap on the far left is who Luke was referencing about, being 83. Outstanding, really ridiculous. And look, I think it's fair to say, like, I don't think anyone should look at a guy who's 83 on stage and be like, well, he ain't got the same amount of muscle. Like, what does the average person look like at 83? Like, come on, like, most people are in wheelchairs or barely can get out of like their armchair at home. So like, to be actually on stage in some pants with some tan on, like loving life, and his routine was great. They always bust out the old, a few. I think William in third, post to Frank Sinatra. So there's some classics come out, and the posing's always great. Like Luke said, Gary's routine was one of those. I won't spoil anything if you go to finals, but it's one of those where to see it is to really believe it, kind of thing. All of them look like they're enjoying themselves, like we've said before. And for guys to be in the 60s and the 70s, of which there was a couple in this lineup as well, like, unbelievable. And some people should really take note of this level of enjoyment people are still having in their, twilight years, let's say. But as we said at the Midlands episode, like, Gary, clear winner of an over 60s category, and will be tough to beat really at a final level. And Mick in second, tons of muscle actually, like Luke said, loads of muscle. And he would be a high caliber over 60s guy in his own right, and would win 99% of other shows. Just Gary was slightly better on the day. So yeah, and I think Luke's nailed it. I think Vicky, has these at the beginning of the show because she understands everyone in the crowd gets up for it, and it's a great way to start the night show with the routines, get the crowd involved, rather than wait till the end of the day when there's maybe not as many people in the audience anymore because people have obviously gone off with their family members. The audience is jam packed. Get these guys on stage, fucking body popping, all the kind of stuff that they do, and they all have a big smile on their face. So yeah, great to see. I love it. It's the highlight of any big show when the old boys come out, because it's just sheer passion and enthusiasm.
Yeah, absolutely rightly said with that. And then we go through onto I believe it was just the one within our Masters over 40s class. And yeah, it was David Brody, but to say, well, I believe this is Adam's client as well. But yeah, phenomenal athlete. Like condition, he'd do very, very well in the open classes still. Like no matter how, to be honest, no matter how heavily kind of filled this class was, David would still probably pretty much be a clear winner. Phenomenal package brought there. Quads separation there, very impressive to see. Good amount of muscle mass from top to toe. Right, very well polished as well. Good with his posing. Just a shame for him that he was the only one within the class, but like I say, clear winner there on the day for this one anyway. With David, and yeah, definitely would push a lot of athletes out there in the open classes. But yeah, very, very good package brought by David, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was probably one of the leanest in the entire show. I think it's fair to say, and he was the first guy out. He came out with the over 50s, so he wasn't posing on his own. But like Luke said, I think if he had any competition, he'd have probably still won anyway. Let's be fair. So, a very, 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 very conditioned Masters athlete, and that's what we've said before. Like these Masters guys can get that freaky conditioning because they've got that muscle maturity, which allows them just to get that extra layer of peeled without looking stringy or a little bit kind of like wasted away or skinny because you've got that old man muscle. So yeah, he will be very good in a Masters lineup, and hopefully next time he's got a bit of competition because it's a bit disappointing really this year. The BNBF, like they had some over 40s at the Southern, they had none at the Midlands, and then they've had one at the Northern. I don't what's everyone doing? Where are you all this year? Normally the Masters has quite a few in. Like it's a shame.
Probably the
So
Scot-
yeah, I don't know what you're all doing. Like hopefully there's loads at the Scottish and some do the other federations later in the year because I don't know what everyone's playing at. Like where are all the over 40s guys? Come on, let's have you. Used to be one of the busiest classes of most shows, and now we're getting somewhere no one's doing them. So I don't know what's going on there.
No idea, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a number of great quality Masters athletes coming into the Scottish show. And then we're moving on to our over 50s. Another phenomenal winner. I mean, every single class, like the winner has just been very, very high standard, which is what you expect with BNBF shows. Paul Elliott taking the win on the day. Seen Paul compete beforehand. We know the standards there. Heaps of muscle there, especially for someone over 50 years of age. But like heaps and heaps of muscle. Not quite as sharp as our David Brody in the Masters over 40s. But yeah, a huge amount of muscle there, and I'm sure he's got room to come in tighter, which will be impressive to see if he does do so for the British finals. But even with this package he's brought now, is definitely up there for winning a British title come the end of the year. And up there, and the only negative for this one is the winner of the Masters category is actually over 40s category. He's stood on the end there. But yeah, very, very good Masters over 50s class. Paul Elliott taking the win there. Milan in second place. Seeing him compete before. Good amount of muscularity there as well. Just up against a ball of muscle with Paul, which is fair to say, and Chris Flanagan just not up there with the amount of muscularity or condition our top two athletes have brought there, really.
Yeah, we said at the Midlands that Paul is as big as a over 50s guy is going to be. And when we saw him in person, we really understood that how big he is. He's got a ton of muscle. And if he's a percent sharper or two at the finals, I can't see an over 50s guy beating him. He's that good. Like you say, Milan in second was very lean. And again, a taller bloke with a very, very aesthetic frame and he was sharper than Paul. He just wasn't as big. He just wasn't. So yeah, another good competitor in Milan. But Paul was a standout, and I think will continue to be a standout for the rest of the season. And I think in terms of, when you see the over 50s, like we said in the Midlands review, you don't always see guys with that amount of mass, but Paul has a lot of it and a very fresh looking physique. So he might be one of those where he didn't compete for the first however many years of him training, and then he's a bit of a latecomer to competing, which sometimes can help in terms of retaining that fresh look, because that's a lot different than someone who's been competing every couple of years since the age of 20, and when you get to 50 you're probably quite burnt out and pretty much fucked. So yeah, not a bad class to open the day and open the show with. And again, like I said on the Midland show, not a bad one to finish our show with. But yeah, a really good Northern. I enjoyed it. My first BNBF show I've been to in person, and yeah, really enjoyed from start to finish. High standard, international standard, and great to see a lot of people who in the audience and around. Catching up with people, it's always good to see, and I'm very much looking forward to getting to a few more shows as the season progresses.
Yeah, like I say, great way to round things off, and a great way to open the show as well last weekend. As always, guys, we appreciate all the support, all the tags, all the mentions. Keep doing with that. Stay tuned for the next one. But yeah, thanks for listening, and we will catch you in the next one, guys. Peace.